Okay, we'll go ahead and call to order the October 8th meeting of the Historic Preservation Commission. Can we have the roll, please?
Commissioner Sibley.
Here.
Commissioner O'Day.
Present.
Chairman Lane.
Here.
Commissioner Jacoby.
Here.
Council Representative Mayor Peck.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, so we do have a quorum. First order of business would be approval of the September 4th meeting minutes. Do any of the commissioners have any corrections or comments on those? Seeing none, it is my understanding from previous clarifications that even though I was not present at that meeting, I am still capable of voting in approval of those minutes, which I would be inclined to do so. If we had more than one other person, I might abstain, but I don't see any reason to do that. Were you not? Oh, okay.
I was.
But,
And I wrote.
okay. So are we good with one commissioner who was actually present at the meeting approving the minutes? Sure. Yeah, okay, all right. Well, then I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move that we approve the minutes of the last meeting then.
Hey Maria, the doors are locked.
Okay.
And I will second.
Okay. We'll go ahead and run this, just vote, and then take a pause until our recording secretary gets back. Okay, well, actually, I'm going to wait, because she's going to need to record that down. So we'll just hold on for a second while we get this resolved.
Oh, no. Oh, that's nice. You probably don't know that. There's a switch view here. You don't have to push the thing.
For the what?
You switch view
Yeah.
if you want to see the things on
Oh, instead of the foolish little thing now?
You don't know about the magic button?
Yeah, that is,
Yep.
no, that one's
No.
gone. You now just
Oh.
hit the one in the middle that says
Yeah.
switch view.
Right in front. Mm. Yeah.
Much easier. It's huge.
Oh, it is.
Changes.
Here.
We just found that last
Okay.
meeting and it was like, oh, that's
Oh,
nice.
new magic button.
Isn't that nice? It's so much easier than the
Another
little-
tech upgrade. Oh,
I know.
boy.
Than the little teeny button. That's the small thing.
Is it?
Oh, it is.
My luck with upgrades. Usually.
Especially when you're presentation.
Good evening. And we'll wait for
I saw her go that way.
Maria to get back.
I think she's just checking on the. Yeah.
Okay.
Hi. How are you?
Well,
Thanks. Sorry, I'm running
run.
late. I know. Always.
It's life.
This thing off.
Should we call a roll again?
I'll just make a note. Yeah.
She was here last meeting, so she
Right.
would be good in the minutes
Well,
too. We
yeah.
were saying I was the only person here who was here last meeting, so I thought the minutes were fine.
Okay. Let the record show that Commissioner Norton has joined us. And we have a motion on the floor from Commissioner O'Day, seconded by Commissioner Sibley, to approve the September 4th meeting minutes. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. So the minutes are approved. Report from the chair. I don't have anything. If our retired Commissioner Fenster, who might have shown up, I had a nice plaque to give him to commemorate his service, but hopefully we'll get to do that another time. So we can jump into communications from HBC staff.
All right, it's a meaty one. First, I just want to report on the secretary or on the SHF grant, the October 1st round. We made the determination with our planning director, Grant Penland, that we're going to postpone that application until the April cycle for a number of reasons. One, I did not get any responses from the request for estimates from various contractors, which a colleague of mine in another city indicated she had similar difficulties. In looking at previous survey efforts from the files that I came across, there's a lot more public outreach. So I think we really want to ensure that we have a project scope that's well designed, and that means working with our neighborhood services group to do some outreach ahead of time as we develop the scope with the registered neighborhood group for that Kensington neighborhood, also known as Cannery East. We do also have some staff capacity issues right now, just due to some higher priority projects that have arisen are taking up a chunk of time, but it is still on their radar, and a lot of it is just really to make sure we have the best designed project we can, and also so that we have cost estimates. So that's the first one. The second one's a big one. It is officially board and commission recruitment time. So just as an overview of some terms, we have a number of seats that are and with terms expiring. I'll note that board members who were appointed at a midterm can still apply for 2 full terms. So Commissioner O'Day, you would need to reapply either for the open commission seat that was vacated by Commissioner Fenster, or reapply for an alternate seat, or just submit your application and we'll figure out where see where the chips fall. In terms of commissioners whose terms are expiring and are eligible to reapply and not yet term limited, that would be Commissioner Jacoby, Commissioner Sibley, and Vice Chair Norton. We determined that you came on and did a part term for somebody, so you're still eligible to apply for another full term. So the application deadline is October 17th. We will need to appoint an interview subcommittee. We should do that at this meeting. And we will need 2 members, and we do have some limited eligibility as far as who can be on that subcommittee, since we have a number of seats that are open or that are up for reappointment, I should say. The eligible commissioners would be Chairperson Lane, Commissioner Barnard, Commissioner Tarrick, and potentially Commissioner Henderson as well, who is not here. She is an alternate, but and I would have to confirm with the clerk if she's eligible to be a voting member on the subcommittee, but I don't know why not. I will, since we have the bulk of those folks out this evening, I will send an email to the commission tomorrow and ask for volunteers. So I will also add that I have worked with the clerk and the communications team. We had, there was some consternation about making sure, consternation on my part, I should say, about making sure we have an adequate number of qualified professionals per our CLG requirements, because we are required to have 40% commission makeup of qualified professionals, and we are just squeaking in there. We do meet that requirement, but it's, I would say better to have more than less. So they have done some outreach to specifically recruit subject matter qualified professionals. So I do believe we have a few applications in as well. So stay tuned when that closes. So in terms of when we would need to do interviews, we have recommendation memos that are due back to the clerk's office on November 21st, since the full commission does need to approve the subcommittee recommendation, that we would be looking at doing the November 4th commission meeting. So we would be looking at basically October 23rd. You know, we have about a week and a half or so period that we could get them done. I'll include that in my message tomorrow as well. So that is one of the bigger things to come up. In terms of what we've been up to, we have finalized one tax credit application. We have another one in progress. We also processed 2 administrative certificates of appropriateness related to those tax credit applications. One was for foundation repair, and another was for a re-roof that was a replacing like with like situation. So, we've been working ahead, and the letter we sent to our historic property owner, our landmark property owners, has definitely had some effect. So, going from there, I will bring up that our January meeting is the first Thursday of the month, which is New Year's Day this year. So I don't know that we're closed that day for the city. So Maria has reserved this room for the following Wednesday, which is really the only open spot. So we would be looking at rescheduling the January meeting to January 7th. And that January meeting is, as always, the first business meeting of the year where we establish priorities, et cetera. So, so that will be, we'll make sure that we're giving reminders about that meeting being rescheduled, because I know we all kind of go on autopilot sometimes. Finally, it is CLG annual report time. It is due on November 7th, so I will be sending out email to the commissioners in the next week or so asking regarding any training activities that you've done over the last year to include within that report. And I think that is everything. We do continue to go through some the documents that we found for folks who weren't here last month, Commissioners Sibley, Lane, and Jacoby. I had kind of an interesting moment about a month and a half ago where looking through some boxes by Ghosts of Planners Past, found quite a few historic surveys and other documents that had been done in the last 15 years, including surveys for the survey project for the Old North neighborhood, which was one of our priority areas. So that was also part of the having to step back and retool the grant application, because we were originally going to move forward with two neighborhoods, but having to do a bit of a pivot on that as well. So, so we've uncovered a tranche of documents, found a number of surveys that are not on our website. We're not really sure why this particular batch of Eastside surveys did not get posted. That said, we are in the process of a department-wide website review, and are working to fix things, because when we did the citywide website overhaul, there were some things that got lost in translation. So we are now working to resolve those issues and ensure that everything is where it should be. So, and part of that will be ensuring that every survey that we have is on our website. So, because there were some gaps. And then we also had a case where we had photos for some and not surveys, but we do have a pretty substantial batch of Eastside surveys from 2003. So we will have to do some file format conversion with our IT department, because they are in a very old Word format that doesn't allow us to do much. So so that's been keeping us busy for a while. So is going through that tranche of information and really just trying to get everything workable and such. So that is my staff report, and if anyone has questions, I will be happy to entertain them.
Thank you. Yeah, Commissioner Jacoby.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I think you said that the next meeting for the Historic Preservation Commission is November 4th. It's actually the 6th.
Oh, it is?
believe.
I misspoke then.
And that's important for me.
Okay.
If I have to undergo interviews again, I will be leaving town on the 15th in 1 week, and I will be coming back on November 5th. So I am available for a week, unfortunately. If we could arrange something with somebody to get a chat, I would be happy to do that.
Okay.
Sorry to make things more difficult, but
That's okay.
there you go.
You're out of the country. It was 10:15 through 11.
November 5th, yes.
Okay.
11:05.
Okay. I will consult with Maria and the clerk and see what we can come up with. Stay tuned.
Anytime in that week, I'm happy.
Okay, stay tuned. Thank you for that update. I appreciate that.
Okay, I just had one quick question. On the April cycle, is that at April 1, or what's the?
It's
what's-
April, yeah, it's April 1. It's
April
10/1 and April 1. So this will give us time to shake down some contractor estimates for doing the work, as well as getting some, doing some outreach and really ensuring that we have a good survey design, a really good, project design.
Mhm. Okay. Any other commissioner questions for staff? Oh, okay. Thanks for that information. Okay, next we have public invited to be heard. So is there anybody in the audience that would like to speak on a topic other than something that we have on the agenda? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and close the public invited to be heard and move on to the public hearing section. 824 Kimbark Street demolition continued from last month's meeting. Monsieur Apperson, you have another sort of refresh report?
Yes, so I will recap this request, since there are some commissioners here tonight who weren't at the last meeting, even though I'm sure you've all watched the recording and read the minutes and such. So this is a request for demolition of 824 Kimbark Street. This property right here. It was noticed properly for the first public hearing, and when we do continuances, they aren't required to renotice. So in a nutshell, this is a request to demolish this house and replace it with a larger home and a detached garage with an accessory dwelling unit. This review is subject to section 2.56.18 of the Longmont Municipal Code regarding demolitions of potentially historic properties. In this case, this property is more than 50 years old and within the original town site, so it is subject to review by this commission. It is zoned mixed use downtown. The lot is approximately 10,000 square feet with a little more than 1,000 square foot house and a 280 square foot detached garage. So the 2008, there's a cultural resources survey from 2008 that does note overall it has a high level of architectural integrity. This property is identified as being in the late Victorian style. The original home was built in 1902. There was an addition in 1924, and the garage was built in 1937. So the applicant does state that the condition of the house, particularly the foundation, makes rehabilitation economically infeasible. So at the previous meeting, we did not have cost estimates for the work that was proposed. We have since received cost estimates and descriptions of work from the applicant, and my staff report has been revised accordingly to reflect that information. So just recapping again, there was an engineer's report that was included with the packet that reported following assessment of the home's foundation. In particular, there are 3 distinct sections of the foundation. There's an original stone from the 1902 property, and then there are 2 clay block and CMU additions. It was noted that there were separations and gaps in the stone section, as well as areas where framing was not bearing on the stone. It was further noted that these foundation sections had not been grouted or reinforced, and they were presumed to not bear on a footing, which it was also noted is consistent with the era in which they were built. So the criteria for whether a request for demolition for properties that are more than 50 years old and within the original town site plat is essentially whether the property would be eligible for landmark designation without the owner's consent, which is a higher bar than if an owner were seeking designation on their own. It was noted in the 2008 Cultural Resource Survey that the property would be eligible for local landmark status, or designation, I should say, with the owner's consent. But it did not comment on the without the owner's consent, but it did note that it did meet criteria for designation with the owner's consent. And I'll get into that a little bit more. So when we're looking at the designation without the owner's consent, there are 6 criteria, but 5 that apply here. If it were just a straight designation without the owner's consent, there would need to be a petition signed and submitted with the application. That is not required here. So of the criteria we are to consider here this evening is whether it meets one or more of the criteria in subsection A, which is designation with the owner's consent, whether the property has extraordinary historic significance, whether the condition of the property prevents the owner from reasonably preserving the structure, whether designation would create hardship on the owner, and whether the promotion of the public interest outweigh any resulting diminution of value. All of these criteria must be met for designation without the owner's consent. So in terms of the first criteria, 4 of the 8 criteria established in subsection A are met in terms of historic significance. So if, as I noted, if the owner were seeking landmark designation, it would meet the criteria for that. The second criteria is whether the property has extraordinary historic significance. Staff is not of the opinion that this criteria has been met. The Cultural Resource Survey indicated that the significance of the property was as part of a whole. So not necessarily on its own significant, but in the context of a larger neighborhood. So, for example, a historic district of some sort, that was the context that it would be significant. So moving on is the question of whether the condition prevents the owner from reasonably preserving the property. So the applicant did submit documentation that a comprehensive foundation repair would run around $250,000. That estimate was included in the packet, and it does include contingencies and such. And so just to put it in context, per the Boulder County assessor records, this property was purchased by the applicant in December 2024 for $400,000. So that estimated repair cost of $250,000 is more than 60% of that purchase price. And that is one of the considerations as well of whether or not forcing designation would create hardship. So there is a significant, this would be a significant portion of what was paid for the property. So finally, it's whether the promotion of public interest outweigh any diminution of market value. So this is part of the original town plat. It does represent early history of Longmont, but it is not part of the National Register Historic District. And it's not part of any local historic district either. Demolition would facilitate construction of a new single-family home. It would facilitate construction of an accessory dwelling unit, which would be a net increase of 1 housing unit for the city of Longmont. The other thing to note that the repair costs, when combined with the purchase price of the property, do exceed the price of comparable properties in the historic Eastside area based on listings that are presently on sites such as Redfin and Zillow. So that is what I based that determination on. So the question for this commission is, regarding whether it meets the criteria for designation without the owner's consent. Staff's recommendation is that the demolition request unfortunately be approved on the basis that it does not meet the threshold for landmark designation without the owner's consent. Specifically, and the criteria that it has extraordinary historic significance. That is the clearest criteria that it does not meet. And then there are other criteria that it would be subject to discussion as far as whether it is met or not. So with that, that is what I have. And the applicant is here as well to respond to the questions.
Thank you, Ms. Hewitt-Apperson. Do any commissioners have questions for staff? Okay. Commissioner Norton. I'm sorry. Yeah.
I think I just jumped you in line, but.
That's fine.
I did. I hit the wrong button.
Sorry.
Yep.
I would just like to note that at the last Historic Preservation Commission meeting in September, 2 members of the community did come forward with concerns about the demolition of this property, as it would affect kind of the continuing eating away of the historic East Side neighborhood.
And if I may, I feel I forgot to add one thing regarding the cost estimate. I did have our senior plans examiner take a look at the cost estimate as essentially a reasonableness check to see if the numbers proposed were in line with the work being proposed. And the feedback I received is that the cost for the specific type of work being proposed was not out of line with what they had seen. So.
Commissioner Jacoby.
Yes, 2 things. First of all, could you clarify, did we not also have the ability to delay the demolition permit 90 days when we came up with the new guidelines?
We're in that.
We're in that.
Yeah, that
started
is,
at some point.
That is basically what this is the commission is making that determination and recommendation on the demolition permit. So,
but we have up to 90 days to do that, and that's from, I forget when the clock started on that.
I believe, Jeremy, correct me if I'm wrong, that relates to the city council determination?
Good evening, Commissioners. Long time no see. Jeremy Terrell, Assistant City Attorney. Commissioner Jacoby, the Commission can issue a stay of a permit for up to 45 days from when the
45.
application was submitted.
Okay.
City Council has the discretion to do 90 days from this date of submittal.
Okay. So that was my one question. And the second, I did watch the full recording of the meeting, and between looking at that and the attachments for the meeting today, I have a bit to say. So I wrote it down to make it brief, hopefully. Please bear with me. There was an undertone of tension even at the last meeting, and I think I get it. As you make income as a realtor and a developer, Mr. Larkin. You invest in property, then you're told you can't build your 5-plex like the one next door. So times have changed, zoning requirements have changed. You decide to build a bigger home with ADU above the garage, and now you've got more headwinds. The city code says you have to come to us, though, because your home is one of the original homes in Longmont. There is a finite and limited number of these, and together they define Longmont's core and Longmont's identity. You said several times that you weren't getting rich here with your project, but the way I see it, no one has to lose in this discussion. I do believe there can be a win-win situation for everybody, and please bear with me. First, I need to address a number of clarifications and misconceptions that we are dealing with here, and these involve the attachments that were given to us to review for the meeting today. I admit I'm out of my league here on technical aspects, so I consulted with a friend who is a contractor and a structural engineer who lives in Old Town, in a home that is the same age as this, in fact, who has repaired and remodeled more than a few houses on the historic East Side. They have done structural repairs for over 35 years with a civil engineering degree focused on structural engineering that they apply as a licensed contractor to renovations of homes throughout the town. They have done jobs for the city as well and are highly regarded, and I had the honor of them offering to review all of your attachments, and they made subsequent comments, and I'd like to go through some of those. Attachment 5 from Level Engineering notes the foundation's in poor condition and did not recommend it be repaired and reused for a new construction foundation, as it would not be in a level state. They did not comment and presumably were not asked about the feasibility of repairing the foundation for the current home as part of its renovations. These foundations throughout the East Side have been dependably maintained their associated houses for over a century. And after that much time, understandably, they need maintenance and upkeep, but they remain viable. Attachment 6 is your statement stating the house structure is unsafe. The structural engineer I spoke to looked at your reports and disagrees given the data presented in the reports. All presented problems looked either cosmetic or reparable in this engineer's opinion. Attachment 8 from Von Maitre Construction states this contractor's opinion is that the structure is unsafe and gave an estimated cost to build a new foundation. But this structural engineer's opinion is perhaps more valid than a contractor's opinion, and their estimate for repairs, the structural engineer that I spoke to, estimate for repairs came out to $105,000, significantly less than what Von Maitre said a new foundation would cost, which is $170,000, and much less than your own estimate in attachment 9 of $235,000. This property is a business venture for you, so this discrepancy is very much worth noting and considering. Note that Von Maitre Construction didn't comment on the cost of repairs of the existing structure. They said the lot needs regrading for repairs to be effective, and I quote, "Several trees will need to be removed. The building owner tells me the city fees to remove the trees makes removal and regrading impractical." So they didn't consider that. There are no fees for tree removal in the city from what I know. I've removed trees without fees. And tree removal will be necessary for replacement of the house as well. These false assumptions make Level Engineering and Von Maitre's assessment incomplete to almost the point of irrelevance, in my opinion. When a real estate developer asks a professional to document how inadequate a foundation is, you get one report. When you ask as a homeowner, what will it take to repair this, you get another answer, and that's the answer I got. As I said, a structural engineer and contractor suggested this could be repaired for $105,000, and she seemed pretty confident in this. I will be glad to give you a copy of their notes if you would like, if that would help at all. Realize this investment would add to the commensurate value of your home. You bought this for $400,000 December 11th. The Zillow estimate, as of yesterday, is that it's already worth $544,000. If you choose preservation, this wouldn't be a losing business venture for you. The final attachment I must comment on is number 7, your historical context statement. It contains a number of inaccuracies. You said there is no local, state, or national survey on file, and we now know that this is untrue. You suggest the house has no distinct architectural features, but the shingled gable and proportions are not being built today, nor are they in your plans for the replacement home. As I said earlier, there is a finite and limited number of homes such as these, and fortunately for all of us, there is a significant market demand for them. You suggested the home has many renovations with significantly reduced architectural integrity and that it does not meet criteria for historical significance at any level, but these statements are in disagreement with the city's survey, as we've been through. A neighborhood is lost one house at a time, and if I may be so presumptuous to say, I would say we on the commission would ideally like to save all homes of this age in this condition downtown. Luckily, the city code also provides economic incentives for you so that preservation is an economically realistic alternative. And I'm not sure how aware you are of all of these. This wasn't discussed at the last meeting that I saw in the video. Your house has already been historically researched. and has been reviewed and felt to be worthy of designation. I can't speak for fellow commissioners, but I would agree with that. I don't know if you are aware, but if you pursue preservation starting with historic designation, improvements you make to the property are exempt from city permitting fees, and if construction materials are bought within the city, city taxes on materials are waived. This could potentially save you many thousands of additional dollars. An article in the Denver Post recently claimed that building a new home averages over $40,000 in fees. Add to this savings the cost of demolition of the existing home and the cost with taxes of all the materials for the new home, and preservation should be an economically viable option. I have taken the liberty of walking around the property, and I think you could add an addition to the back where the garage is now, maybe an expanded kitchen or a master bedroom with a walk-in closet and bath, maybe both, something the market would desire. You could still put a garage in the back of the property with an ADU upstairs with alley access. The structural engineer I consulted with didn't think the chimney was necessarily a structural problem. But if you wanted to remove it, it could even be taken out, and the house may still be eligible for designation by this commission. The commission would have to agree that your improvements are architecturally consistent with the current home on the exterior if you were to do an addition, but you can do whatever you want with the interior so long as it meets the usual city codes. And then you could get a premium price for a recently renovated, historically designated home in Old Town. And I hope you are open to considering this possibility. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Commissioner. Any other commissioner questions for staff? I want to get to the applicant. All right.
I do have one
Yeah,
question.
okay. Hold on, Commissioner. I actually, in listening to this thing, I was made aware that if we don't have this recording, you really can't hear what the person is saying. So
Okay.
it is important that we
Okay.
get this.
That is great to know. Jennifer, I do have a question. So there is a lot of strong language about the safety risk of this. Has the city identified this as a hazard in keeping with these claims in this document?
No, it has not.
Okay, so there's someone could live in it today and it is not considered a structural hazard or safety issue?
I can't speak to that. What I can speak to is that the chief building official, neither the chief building official nor the fire marshal have made any formal determinations that is an unsafe structure. So it has not been condemned, essentially.
Thank you.
And I guess just a quick question on that. Does the city of Longmont have, do they adopt the property maintenance code? Is that one of the codes? It
Yes,
is?
they
Yeah,
do.
Okay, all right. So that code would essentially authorize the fire marshal and building official to do such a thing. All right. Okay, all right. So I want to give the floor to the applicant if you would like to walk us through anything, address anything, and then we'll have some time for questions from the commissioners directly for you. If you don't mind just stating your name and turning the mic on for sure.
I'm John Larkin. I'm here with my wife and my other two partners in this project. We usually don't take something on of this size because it does take a lot of money up front. And I am sorry that you aren't aware of all of the information that is required, especially the tree surveys. I can show you in writing that they're expecting me to pay them $26,000 for the privilege of taking down 3 trees. This has been going on for a long time, and I've always managed to work my way around it. Now, with this property, I have to do what I have to do. I'm doing the best I can with it. We took down the trees they allowed us to. There's 3 still standing because it's going to cost an extra $26,000. And your estimate does not take into account lifting that house in the air and taking the foundation that does not exist underneath it and putting a new one under. Okay, that's the problem we have. If I had a reasonable way to save this, I would. I don't have a problem with that. That's not the issue. The issue is it's so expensive, especially in today's market. That's where my challenge is. I've been doing this a long time, and the cost of doing anything these days is just exorbitant. And that's why this is probably the last project I'm going to do in Colorado. So I'm just trying to make sure that we get it done the best we can to make it fit. We've looked at several different floor plans. We even looked at a smaller cottage version with the ADU just to make it fit a little better. So we're not trying to fight and argue with everybody. We're just trying to do what we can to make this a safe home. I mean, as it is now, there's 3 trees that grow up through the soffit. There's one that's already penetrated the back porch. And that's the issue with the trees. And we can't even touch that tree because it's going to either fall on it or it's going to knock the wall over. So all I'm trying to do is the best I can with this. Okay? I'm not trying to create a problem. I'm not trying to eliminate another house. I did a house the next block over at 830 Emory. And we tried to save that one and it didn't work. So we ended up having to take that one down. And that was during COVID. And we put a house up. It was a little more of a craftsman style, but it turned out beautiful. And it was the same size as what was already planned. So I don't have a problem with that. I'm not concerned with that. I'm just trying to do this because I lose money every day. And there's no black money behind this. There's no other money behind this. This is our retirement money we're putting into this project. And we'd like to still be able to retire at some point. So that's all we're trying to do. So when we ask to demolish it, it's only because we think it's the most feasible way to put a reasonable home back on that lot. It's a big lot. It's got lots of room. You know, and it's surrounded by a variety of things. We're just trying to figure out what's going to fit best without losing any more money. We're already pretty heavily into this because we pay quite a bit every month just for a mortgage and we can't even use the building because we were told we couldn't use it for an office. So I'm just trying to do the best I can. Okay, I'm not trying to step on anybody's toes. I'm not trying to take anything out. We can adapt our design to include the scalloped shingles and things like we did with the house on Emory. I don't have a problem with that. That's easy. Okay, we can make it look like it fits in the neighborhood. That's not a problem whatsoever. But trying to save it and trying to restore the foundation is a big challenge. And it's a very expensive challenge. And that's my problem. Okay? I'm not trying to create any more problems. I'm just trying to get this through the system so I can get to it at some point in time here. Because it costs me a lot of money every month just to sit on it. Okay?
Let's see. Any questions for the applicant? Yeah. Commissioner O'Day, where are you? There you are. Commissioner O'Day.
To your point of the design, I guess that's my personal, the design you presented is like a craftsman, which is very different from the Victorian that's there. Are you willing to kind of do something that's much more of a nod to, I mean, that would be, if it fit more with, there's a matching house next to it. So it will look very different and will change the look of that street. And it would be nice if it was at least a nod to that style and not a very different type of house.
We can do that. That's not a problem. We were picking different designs that are easy for us to put together. And the biggest thing is at this point, we're looking at doing a package design to expedite the process. Because if I go through an architect now, it's going to take another 6 months just to get it in for submittal. So we're trying to use an existing design package that works for that neighborhood that we can put enough house there. And that's it. That's all we're trying to do. We're just trying to expedite it a little bit. But yeah, we have no problem at all making it fit or even look a little more appropriate for the area.
Okay. Commissioner Jacoby.
So, correct me if I'm wrong, but we can't waive the fee for tree removal if it's designated?
The tree removal fee is the fee. There is
Okay.
a fee for tree removal,
Okay.
and if a tree is removed without going through the proper processes, then there is a fee assigned, and that was
Okay.
done here.
So, the point you made, Mr. Larkin, was that, again, you talk about raising the house and totally replacing the foundation. The structural engineer I spoke to said that does not need to be done. They looked at the recommendation, they looked at the reports, and they have worked on several houses. They say you shim up the foundation where it's irregular, and you can brace it up, and it will be fine. It will be safe. She thought it was safe already, but thought that they could fix this so that this would be stable at a significantly lower price. Now, I understand you've got, you come in with a preset idea, and I know you're not being Simon Legree wanting to tear this thing down, but I would urge you to consider the possibility of a more conservative repair of the current foundation, which would give you significant savings, which would allow you to maybe preserve the house with a nice modern addition in the back to get the modern size and the amenities that most people want. I think that's very doable still from what I'm hearing. And I don't know how much you've considered that, but certainly the foundation, it sounds like, from a very respected and knowledgeable structural engineer, could be salvaged.
I invite your engineer to come with me and do a walkthrough and see the condition of it firsthand. I have no problem with that.
Okay.
My biggest concern, the majority of the house sits on a flagstone foundation, which, as anybody knows, that's just a pile of rocks.
Right.
That's all it is.
Right.
And then the back section where they added the clay block, they also put CMU on the inside to try to keep it from falling in.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah, she
just-
had responses to those concerns as well, and I'd be happy to give you her name, and I can.
Sure.
If you can give me your contact information, I'll be
do
glad
that.
to give it to her, and maybe we could work something out because
Sure.
it'd be a shame to miss an opportunity to save the house.
It's I invite her to come look, and if she can give me
Okay.
better ideas, great. Let's talk about it.
That sounds great. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I had some similar kind of comments to Commissioner Jacoby. I know we had a similar project come in that wanted to take down the house, and they had a big lot. Their lot was big enough to even split, and so, but we asked them for an estimate as well. And their estimate for lifting the house and putting a new foundation in of a slightly larger, 1,200 square feet or whatever, was quite a bit less. I mean, their total estimate, I'm looking at this, is around $75,000-$80,000, which include 40-some to raise the house off the foundation. So, and then I guess when I looked at the detailed estimate, some of the information that you had in there in terms of civil and structural engineering and permitting and so on that tackles into that 250. I think if we're really trying to compare apples to apples, isn't quite fair to have in that, because you're going to have that fee regardless of what you're going to have a permit fee and a engineering fee and lot excavation and so on for your house, right? If you build a new house, those numbers are going to be in there. So I think the 250 is maybe, it feels like an overestimate specific to this this particular foundation problem. But I guess, again, I had the same reaction. I went out there and I took a look and I thought, well, boy, if you could fix the foundation on that one piece, you've got 1,000 square feet that you got to build somehow. That 1,000 square feet, a new house isn't free, right? That's $400 a square foot or something. I mean, it's going to cost almost as much as the house you have there to put that square footage back. If you could build, I mean, it seems like it would be a slam dunk to landmark. What's our percentage tax credit for
20%.
20%? So the one thing that Commissioner Jacoby didn't mention is that on top of some of these fee waivers, all that eligible work associated with the renovation could get you tax credits of 20% of the value of the work. So there's a scenario in which, the foundation gets fixed one way or the other, whether it's a brand new one or not, and you put an addition on that sort of matches the style, and then you go maybe the garage in the back gets taken down, and that little addition off the back, that little shed thing off the back gets taken down, and you put a brand new garage with an ADU in the back, and you end up with the same square footage, same program, and again, potentially more value in a historic home. I think that's very possible. And so whether we can demand that you do that or not, I'm not sure, but I'd sure love to encourage you to do that, or at least really, really, really think about it and lay that out, because I think there's an opportunity for you, and I think that if that were successful, it would be a better scenario for the city. So that's more of a statement of encouragement.
I appreciate that. Our biggest thing is time is money. And the longer we drag this out, the more difficult it is for us. Because it becomes, to be able to finance that and everything else becomes even more difficult. Because there's only so much we can do. And if there were reasonable support or extra help or financial support or ways to get around some of these fees, I will look at it. I don't have a problem with that. My biggest issue is how much it's going to cost to even do this, to do anything to this. That's where my issue is right now.
Sure. And I can understand that. For us, we talk about time, but we also talk about, these things have been here for 100 years, right? And so there's some value in just, that's what this is what this board is. It's a historic preservation board, right? This is where our focus is going to be. But I think if you're willing to do that, if you're willing to say, hey, there's a way to save this, then I think you have the support of this commission behind you to do whatever we can to push for, for landmark, for tax credits. And if we have to go stand in front of the city council and say, waive the dang tree fees, I'd do it.
Well, good luck with that one. I've tried. We can't get that one right.
But you hear me. I mean, there would be a lot of support behind you on that front.
What resources are there? That's my question. What resources? I'm not used to having any other resources other than what I can generate. If there's something else out there, I need to know about it. If there's some way we can deal with it, I need to know about it.
Yeah.
Okay, we want to figure out the best way to move forward as quickly as possible so we can get this thing done.
So the primary and biggest bang for the buck financial incentives would be tax credits. There's a state tax credit as well as a federal tax credit. The federal tax credit is only for income producing properties. So rentals, commercial properties, etc. The state tax credit, I would have to talk to our CLG coordinator at the state, because this is a bit of a different animal as far as whether this is a residential or whether this is a commercial credit. So so that is one question. But typically for residential at the state level, it's a 20% credit. We do offer rebates per our code. Let's see. So there's a rebate of 100% on the first $1,000 of aggregate fees, 75% of the fees above $1,000. Fees shall be rebated upon issuance of certificate of occupancy, etc. So there are, let's see, the eligible costs to be eligible for the rebate, a minimum of 30% of the total cost of the project would be exterior walls, windows, or other exterior features of the structure, unless the commission designates a lesser amount consistent with their findings under the certificate of appropriateness. So a lot of and as far as the tax credits, yeah, those are after the fact incentives.
Okay, I'm not sure how much that would help. I guess I have to talk with my partners. I have to discuss with my partners. We've already consulted with our lawyers. We already are working. They want us to see what happens today, and then we'll have more discussions about how to deal with it. And I've talked extensively with the building department. I know them very well. They know me very well. And I've also talked with Harold multiple times. And at this point, he's just kind of waiting to see what's going to happen. But all we're trying to do is the best we can for that property and for ourselves, so we can be done with it, and it'll be another property that works well in this area.
Sure. And I understand. And I think our perspective is we're trying to think of, the more we can preserve of the original city, the more value the city has, and the more value collectively the entire neighborhood has. Because if it's, there's just value in these old neighborhoods, and if that erodes, the value erodes, right? And collectively, if the value is raised, then it's good for everybody. And so I understand, believe me, I understand that it is not easy.
Well, my issue is financial feasibility.
Yeah.
you know, and that's the issue. It's these days it's getting so much expensive to restore anything. I mean, it's way more expensive than rebuilding it, and that's just been my experience over the last 10 years. So I'm just looking at the easiest way to deal with it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we're not opposed to finding something that is a better design to fit the neighborhood. I'm okay with that. So it just, we need to make some decisions. We move forward one way or another.
Right. All right.
So I will say what is under consideration by the commission, we have specific criteria to evaluate and determine whether or not it meets that threshold of designation without the owner's consent. Our advisory role obviously is always useful to property owners, but at this point, you know, we have to be able to say yes or no based on the criteria. And you know, Jeremy, step in if I'm.
Yeah, I understand. What I'd like to do is let the applicant have, if there's anything more the applicant would like to address. Technically, we have to open this up to the public, but I don't see any public, so that should be pretty quick. And then we have discussion among the commissioners where I think we would start heading in that direction. But I'd like to make sure the applicant has.
My associate would like to talk.
Yeah, absolutely. Please come up. And if you would, just please state your name.
Sure, Steve. My name is Dave Shelpuck. I'm a Longmont resident, and as John mentioned, I am one of the partners on this 824 Larkin project. I thought during the last meeting there was a reference to, with regards to real estate development, dark money and outside investors, and I'm here to call myself out as that dark money. It comes out of my 401k. As John said, you know, time is money. And the fact that we bought the property in December, you know, it's $4,000 a month carrying costs on this, which is, when it's coming out of your 401k, you can sense Steve, if you sense some urgency, last meeting, that's where it was coming from. But what I wanted to discuss here is this notion of weighing good priorities against other priorities. And I think the preservation of historical structures, I'm in complete alignment with you, Steve. I lived in Bonnie Bray in Denver and was in a number of neighborhoods where those structures were preserved, and I think the city was better for it. I do want to kind of weigh this against other city objectives, which is affordable housing, infill, and the development of community. And the reason why I bring that up is that in its current state, this house doesn't really align, I think, with the priorities of affordability, infill, and community development. In fact, its most recent occupant was a renter selling stolen goods out of the house. And we found that out when a Longmont officer came by when John and I were working, and he had asked, do we know the whereabouts of the previous owner? And we did not. In its current state, I would question whether the objectives of affordability and infill and community development could be satisfied. Could we make this structure more of a family type house? It's a single bathroom. It's what we're proposing. I think John made a reference to it. We would like to keep that what I would say the street view very, very similar. By adding a second story, it could lend itself to a family type home as opposed to a rental home. The addition of an ADU could make it an investment opportunity for a multi-generational situation. I think with regards to Mr. Jacoby, you had brought up this estimate that you had come across. I think it's significant that in response to the last meeting, we contacted 6 structural engineers to pull together foundation engineers to kind of get an average. I think it's significant that 5 of them were not, they did not want to bid it. They were not interested. And the one that we got was the one that you had seen. The fact that the other 5 were not in this time, that they were not interested in doing a project like this or providing an estimate, I think is significant. I think as John's financial partner, I do want to look at all options. And Rick, I do appreciate the, this foundational cost estimate that you have identified. We have not looked at the financial incentives with regards to a historic preservation, and I think it's prudent upon us to look at all options. Again, what I have to continue to look at with John is this idea of month over month over month, $4,000 every single month coming out of the 401 before we can move forward. So I do want to thank each and every one of you for your time and commitment to our city. I've worked with historic preservation committees before in Denver, and your time is, I very much appreciate your time and your commitment to our city. So I appreciate your input. We will look at that as an option. We will continue to keep the pedal to the metal because time is money. And I do thank you for your commitment and time. Thank you.
All right. With that, I'll go ahead and open the public hearing portion of this. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to speak to this item? And seeing none, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing. So now it's discussion amongst our commissioners. Ms. Hewitt-Apperson, did you want to start? Oh, you did want to come? Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, please. Sorry. Yeah, my bad. I misinterpreted that. We'll formally reopen the public hearing. If you would, state your name and address. And technically, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. My address?
Name and address, please.
Thank you. My name is Kristen Marie Conte. My address is 285 High Point Drive, H205, Longmont, Colorado, 80504. I am here today because I'm interested in this commission, and I am overhearing the proceedings, and I have an overwhelming urge to speak about the importance of historical preservation, especially in the community. I'm very well traveled. I travel the world. My husband's from Italy. And every city we land in, every country we land in, going to those historic places that have been preserved is nearly the highlight of our trip. And coming back to a concrete city sometimes can be difficult. And the historic aspects that this country provides, this very new country provides, I know it's newer now, but just like Venezia, just like Firenze, just like Paris, just like London, just like Dublin, you see the historic aspect and you want to ask questions and you want to learn more. And in fact, that's where you want to stay by too, as a visitor. And so I just wanted to take a moment, and I know we live in a very modern world, but I, as a Longmont resident with an interest in this community and in this country, I think that we should do everything we can to preserve what we have here. And I affirm a lot of the points made, and I just want to make sure that the decisions made will honor the community and many generations to come, not just a single person's concern for their wallet. And just seeing a little more flexibility on being able to preserve that or even reduplicate that look, I would have liked to see more of. But that's all I got. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you for your time. Okay. Apologies for missing that indication. Now we'll go ahead and close the public hearing. So, Ms. Hewitt-Apperson, did you want to make a statement or invite City Attorney to do so before we start any further conversations?
It's probably wise. I will probably tag team with our city attorney. But just to reiterate that the commission's decision is based on review criteria established within the code, and there are the review criteria for Designation without the owner's consent would be applicable here. So, and it must meet all of those criteria. So that's really what we're looking at.
City Attorney staff, do you have anything more to add there? Or?
Good evening again. I do not have anything much, I don't have much additional to add other than what Ms. Hewitt-Apperson stated, just to indicate that looking at procedure, the commission's decision tonight is, is the structure eligible for designation without the owner's consent? If the commission says no, then the demolition permit is granted, assuming all the other criteria is approved, and everything else is in order. If the commission thinks it is, the commission doesn't actually do anything other than send it to city council at that point. So city council will then have to expeditiously review the application, and city council has a number of options when they receive it, which includes determining it's not eligible and therefore granting the permit to demolish the property. City council can also instruct the city manager or designee to negotiate with the owner of the structure and attempt to preserve it. The city could also enter negotiations to acquire the property. City council could also require certain conditions to ensure continued maintenance of the historical, architectural, cultural integrity and character of the structure in coordination with a demolition permit. Or city council could then proceed to make it a landmark with or without the consent of the owner. So I just wanted to kind of give the commission that kind of framework of where we're looking at. In terms of the commission's decision, again, it's just whether or not the commission believes it's eligible for designation without consent. And if the commission thinks it is, city council then takes it over from here.
All right, thank you. Appreciate that. Okay, I will open the floor to any commissioners that would like to make comments. Okay. Commissioner Norton.
So we have heard the arguments around the increase of affordable housing in the past with a demolition like this. In the past, we did not see one house being turned into two as a sufficient argument for increasing housing stock in Longmont. And I think I personally still see that this would be a single house made into a single larger house with an ADU. And while I am supportive of ADUs when they're appropriate, that is not an argument for increasing the housing stock. It's just not adequate. I also don't believe that I've seen anything that indicates an affordable housing argument for this, as we do not know what the resale is going to be on this, or what the rental or whatever the future aspects of this particular property would be. So I don't think either of those are valid arguments. And while I know those are not considerations that we are voting on, I would like that on the record for if and when this goes to council.
Other commissioner comments? Sorry. Well, I can't tell if you're...
I've got plenty of comments. I said a lot.
Right.
No, go ahead. I'm honestly, really, you guys have covered it very well, so I do not have a lot to add.
I guess.
Go ahead.
Hold on, just let me get you there.
Okay.
Commissioner O'Day.
Being fairly new to this commission and not understanding procedure here, I guess I would like a little more clarification on this. If we decline, I kind of want the wording of what would happen, because you would be declining somehow we would have to say that they don't meet the criteria to demolish it, and then it would go to city council. I'm kind of wondering how that works. I guess I'm not quite sure what the wording is on all of that. So if I can have clarification.
Sure. So Commissioner O'Day, the council or the commission's decision tonight would be a motion that, let me step back. So if the commission wants city council to consider whether or not this property is eligible for designation without owner's consent, the commission would pass a motion saying that the property may be eligible for designation without the owner's consent, and we ask city council to consider it. So if the commission tonight wants to send it to city council, that's the way of doing it. If the commission doesn't say that, then the historic review of the property is waived as it concerns demolition. So assuming the applicant meets all the other criteria for demolition, so if they paid the permit fee, they satisfy their tree fee if that's applicable, if they have the asbestos determinations of the demo permit from the state, assuming all that's met, then the historic preservation piece is done and the property can be demolished. If they don't have all those other criteria, they still can't be demolished, but the historic preservation piece is still done. Does that answer the question somewhat?
I think so. I guess, does anyone else have that question, or does that make sense to anybody? Because your recommendation was that basically it did not meet the criteria, in which case, is that even an option? I guess that's my question.
Yeah, I think if the motion, if there's a motion that passes that the property does not meet the criteria for nomination without the owner's consent, if that is effectively approving this application for demolition.
Yeah.
So that,
Or in the alternative. So if there's not a affirmative vote that it meets the criteria for designation without the owner's consent, I would say that the permit's also granted at that point.
and
So
then-
if you're deadlocked, they get the permit.
Okay. So we really have, we really do have the three choices that are in, it's page 22, I think, 20, is that right? 20, what is it, 24, sorry. Page 24 of the packet outlines the options, right? So we're either going to essentially approve the demolition permit. We're going to state that the house does not meet the requirements for, you could say the house doesn't meet requirements for nomination without the owner's consent. That effectively approves the demolition permit. We could say we think it does meet that criteria and we do not approve the demolition request, and then it's forwarded to council. And the third action, as noted in the report, is to defer action again, in which case, the one thing I could consider here is that, the applicant has now been made aware of the financial potential for preservation, and this, if it's deferred, then they got to come back again, which I'm sure is super fun. But at the same time, it doesn't allow a condition where, and not suggesting they would do this, but that someone would just say, forget it, I don't want to bother going through those steps. I have my demo permit, that's the easiest way, and I'm just going to go there. So those are really the three things. We say, hey, would you come back next month and tell us about whether did you consider this, and did you run some numbers, and can we, are you able to, or I guess sorry, I'm just talking and thinking out loud, which is not perfect. Let's say we defer it, and we say, the idea behind deferring it is please go back and look to the applicant to run these numbers and tell us if you can make it work. If they decide they can make it work, then we're just done. They're not coming back here, correct? Because there's no longer a demolition permit request on the table.
Correct. So, and one other thing to note is I don't know that we are able to defer the item again based on timing in the ordinance.
Oh, so that action is not really an option.
Yeah, so I do apologize. I should have eliminated that from the options. So
Okay.
basically tonight we're thumbs up, thumbs down.
Okay. So given that, I think we're either saying it's fine and we're going to hope that the applicant decides that the numbers work and they don't need the demolition permit, or we kick it to council. That's really basically the two options that this commission has. Okay, Commissioner Jacoby.
So I think it's pretty clear we just don't meet the criteria, but we can vote on it, and we will. I don't think we meet the criteria, but I do think if the applicant is genuinely interested in pursuing the alternative course and seeing what savings can be made with rehabilitation of the house, my question is, what can we do as a commission to help with that process? Because obviously that's what we all want. I can certainly get the name of the structural engineer for you. Again, we outlined some of the savings. I don't know if we can crunch some of those numbers down to what a theoretic would be for the cost of the house. Yes, we can. I certainly would go to City Council and ask for a waiver on tree fees if that $26,000 makes or breaks the deal. I think a number of us would, and I think City Council would listen to us, considering the outcome that we would expect, which would be preserving some of our downtown core identity. Is there anything else that anyone can think we could do to help the applicant take an alternative course? Because I think the vote is a foregone conclusion, frankly. But what could we do in place of that?
Okay. Commissioner Norton?
So I actually respectfully disagree with staff regarding the historic significance of this property. I think on its own, it is eligible for the National Register of Historic Places, does not necessarily rise to significance, but this, as we discussed, I believe, in the last meeting, this entire block of Kimbark should have been included and is being thought to be included within the Historic East Side district. And if you remove this property, if there's a demolition of this particular property, it not only affects the inclusion of this piece, but of the neighbor pieces on the remainder of this block. And so I think that is a significant public benefit that we must consider, because it will create more issues with being able to increase that district. So I actually recommend that it does meet the criteria, and that we should vote for number 2 to not approve the demolition request and refer the property for process for designation without the landowner's consent.
Okay. Any other commissioner comments? Commissioner O'Day?
So would that satisfy the criteria to make that vote, I guess is my question. Her
What-
comments, would that satisfy the criteria enough to change the feasibility for it to be historic?
Just so I'm clear, are you asking, were this property in the East Side Historic District, if that boundary was such that this property was included, would the evaluation, would that change anything relative to this property?
Well, and her comments about the fact that destroying one property on that block then basically kind of invalidates that block from being potentially historic. Is that kind of what I'm getting, in that would make it historically significant? Is that, I don't know if I'm stating that correctly at all.
So this is another case of Jeremy jump in if I'm speaking out of turn. When reviewing applications, we really can't look at hypothetical if this were in a district. My recommendation, as much as I hate to see historic properties demolished, I'm basing my recommendations on the criteria and in the cultural resource survey that was completed for this property. It does not identify it as being significant to the national level, but it is significant to the local level. And further, the statement of significance is that it's significant for its association with the overall neighborhood. So the question is whether that whether that meets the standard of extraordinary historic significance, which, based on what's in the cultural survey, I don't know that it does. That is staff's interpretation. And Jeremy is helpfully bringing up the definition in the code, which apparently did not want to work.
No. I believe it's in your packet too, but I just wanted to pull up the definition and have it on the big screen. So I think it's always helpful.
What are you looking for? 180?
No. Where is it? Where's the criteria for
Go up.
designation?
Yeah.
There it is. So in terms of the criteria for the council's decision, it's in the packet, but it's items 2 through 6 on the left side of your screen. And then in terms of what extraordinary historic significance means, there's the definition. So as usual, I cannot weigh in on whether or not I have an opinion on it. My job is just to advise on the criteria, and then this is the criteria that the commission considers. Again, and if the commission feels that criteria 2 through 6 are met, then the motion should be to send it to council for their consideration.
Okay, thank you. That's helpful. Okay, if there's no further just sort of comments or questions for staff, we do need to get to a point where we get a motion on the floor.
Sorry,
Commissioner Silby.
I've got too many things open currently. Because I wasn't here, could we just review those different criteria? Because like I'm looking at this sheet and it's talking about promotion of public interest and all of that and kind of how that relates to what we were just discussing. And so I'm not seeing it somewhere in the packet. There was that list of all of them. Not this one. Staff report, thank you. That's what I am looking for. And sorry, I maybe. Oh, she's got a copy of it. Maybe that will help me.
You're talking about the criteria for review of designation with the owner's consent? Those items that is the first?
That may be what it was. Just as I was reading through, there was, okay. I think I have found it. It is on the hard copies. It looks like it's the third page. LMC section 2.56, blah, blah, blah. Structure has been determined to present a dangerous condition by the fire chief. No, oh, sorry. I shouldn't be reading this as I'm talking to you guys. I just wanted to review those. It looked like there were we needed 4 different criteria.
Yeah,
I'm getting a little confused. I'm sorry.
Yeah, hopefully this will help. Actually, I was hoping you had that the code section back up again.
Sorry.
I mean, effectively, if it's not a I'll wait till you get this. Well, yeah, I think maybe we can go through it in the packet then. Okay, so the page you were referencing is page 21 on the packet. The structure, the structure's not exempt from the review. So that's the first piece was, should it even get here, right? And so that's already taken care of because we're here.
Because we're here, right, okay, fair.
So we
yes.
don't need to go through that because
Yes.
we're here
Yes.
talking about it.
Okay.
And then the second part is review for designation of a landmark with the owner's consent. So if they came in here and said, hey, we want it to be a landmark,
Right.
would we say yes, right? And I think that's a set of criteria in the packet that spills over into the next page about this, hey, that's the significance of the building and who is associated with it and whether
Yeah.
it's important in the neighborhood. And there's 4 of those criteria that it meets, right? So
Okay.
if they were coming in and saying, we want this to be a landmark, we would say, well, it meets 4 criteria. So that looks
Okay.
pretty good. So I think that fairly clearly notes that it's eligible. If they came in and said, we want it to be a landmark, we would
Okay.
probably say, yeah, absolutely.
Right,
So now the last threshold is, they don't want it to be a landmark, but we do.
right.
That's
Okay.
that's really where the rubber hits the road and becomes problematic. So now it has to meet all these other criteria. One of which is that it creates a hardship, and I think the applicant has demonstrated that it's expensive, but maybe there's some question about where that line is.
Yes.
So, for my personal opinion, I don't know that I would hang my hat on the hardship creation. I don't know that it's not possible to preserve, right? That's another criteria. It says, does a PE come in and say, it's in a condition that prevents it from being preserved? It's not true. It just costs money, but it's not impossible.
Right.
Right. And does it promote the public interest? Does that outweigh what other financial arguments? Everybody's got to make their own decision about that, but I think the conversation is leading towards, it's in the public interest to preserve.
Yes.
So it meets all of those criteria. The one that gets really sticky is, does this house have extraordinary historic significance?
Okay.
Per that definition that city attorney staff put up on the board.
I gotcha. Okay.
To me, that's the only place we have that where there's a question.
Okay.
And that's I think each commissioner needs to decide,
Okay.
individually whether you think it does or not, and then decide what you want as a process.
All right. Thank you
Does
for
that
that.
help?
No, it absolutely does. It very much in a nutshell now. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yes, thank you.
All right. Yes. Absolutely. Mayor Representative Peck.
Thank you. And just for the applicant, I cannot vote on this, so I'm just asking questions. I thought that I had heard in scrolling through these documents, it said that for historic designation, the maintenance of it is on the owner of the house, the past owner of the house, if it is considered a historical landmark locally. Is that correct? That the maintenance of the house, because I saw in here that the problem with the house was not as much on the structure, but on the maintenance. Did I read that correctly?
There is a whole sort of notion of demolition by neglect. That's kind of how we talk about it here, where it's not properly maintained and therefore it the condition deteriorates, and that's not a reasonable excuse, essentially. But what complicates that in this particular case, and that's what I think you're referring to, what complicates that in this case is these folks aren't the people that have owned it for for 20 years and didn't keep it up. They just acquired it in its current state. So I don't know that it's appropriate to hang the lack of maintenance of the previous owner on the new owner, right? That's where it gets kind of sticky.
And that was my question. If it is considered a historic, locally historical to preserve, can that be grandfathered in from the past owner? That they did not maintain it
Yeah,
as far as cost?
Right. I think. I don't know that we're attempting to penalize this applicant for that. I mean, but I'm not sure what else I'm not sure if I know 100% what your question is.
What my question is if this board would like it to be preserved as a historical landmark, and that goes through, and the structure of it is based upon lack of maintenance, would it be the previous, not this owner, but the previous owner? Could you go back and say, this is a historical landmark, and you did not maintain it to the, but I don't know.
That's probably an attorney question, but I don't feel like that's possible.
Too bad. I was
No.
hoping we had a loophole there.
No, as excellent question, Mayor Peck. We don't have that authority in this provision of the code. I do think, it does matter. That question does matter for the criteria that the commission's considering tonight. So I do think that goes to the, would the designation be a hardship? So, I mean, part of the commission's decision could be that because of the extraordinary neglect by the past owner, it does
Right.
create an extra hardship for this property owner. So that could be one of the criteria that the commission might want to consider, or it might be related to their criteria, but we can't penalize the past owner at this point.
Oh, too bad. Okay, thank you.
And just, it brought up one question in terms of maintenance. If it were designated and were preserved, again, the tax credit piece, that does apply to maintenance work effectively, right? So if you do keep it and then 10 years later you have to paint it or you have to repair windows, the tax credit piece is still available for reimbursement for maintenance of historic properties. So that's an ongoing thing. It's not necessarily a one-time deal. Okay. Commissioner Jacoby.
Could we go back to the page that's buried there on the side, that defines this? Yeah, that one. This is the crux of the whole issue: extraordinary historic significance. And I'm reading through this and trying to decide. The first criteria is such unusual or uncommon significance. That's very poorly defined. Okay, that the structure's potential demolition or alteration, but would diminish the character and sense of place in the neighborhood. This is precisely what Holly was talking about. If we demolish this on this block, would it diminish the character and sense of place in the neighborhood? And then it's or number two. Number two criteria does not have to be met if demolishing this diminishes the character and sense of place in the neighborhood. So that, I think, is, for me, looking this over again, the most important line about what is extraordinary historic significance. So just thought I'd share that with you. It just has to meet one of those two criteria, and if it diminishes the sense of place in the neighborhood by this one house, if it's that unusual or uncommon. 1910 houses are unusual, yes. Are they unusual in this neighborhood? Not necessarily, but would removing it diminish the character of the neighborhood? That's enough unusualness to meet the criteria, which I thought, well, I don't know. That's going to help guide my vote. Thank you.
Okay, and speaking of voting, we have to get to a vote. In order to get to a vote, we need a motion. So is there anyone ready to make such a motion?
Go for it. Go for it.
All right. Commissioner Norton.
Yes, I move that we recommend that the property does meet the criteria for designation without landowner consent, and do so. Move forward that process to City Council.
Okay.
I second.
All right, so I have a motion on the floor I'm just trying to get this right here.
Yeah. Need to switch back to my.
Yes.
I know.
Thank you. All right, I just wrote the page. So the motion on the floor is not to approve the demolition request and refer the property to the process for designation as a landmark without the owner's consent to council.
Yeah.
Okay, that motion is made by Commissioner Norton and seconded by Commissioner Jacoby. Is there any further discussion on the motion? No? All right. Then all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Any of those opposed? No, so that motion does carry unanimously. I would only comment that I think our hope is that in the meantime, hopefully there's some additional consideration for the possibility of making this preservation. So I appreciate your time. I hope you understand that we took a long time here to make this deliberation because we really do care, and we do honestly appreciate the time you spent coming here. Okay. Okay, that was a long one. All right, on to new business, which we've mostly covered already. Commissioner interview subcommittee. Is there anything more we need to discuss on this, or do you have it handled?
Commissioner Review Subcommittee, I will be sending out an email in the next day or two seeking volunteers who are eligible, which is you and a couple other commissioners.
Yeah, somehow I feel like I'm going to be on this. No, that's fine, please. No, we'll make another time. I'm feeling a little worked. Okay. Okay, then prior business. It's listed here, but we don't have anything. Sorry, I didn't.
I did. I thought I stated that we have no prior business.
sorry,
I
you might have,
apologize.
but I was just waiting. I was looking ahead and thinking, I haven't heard anything.
In my defense, I was at city council last night until about 9 o'clock. So.
It's been a long couple weeks for me too, so I might have just gone into shutdown mode, sleep mode for a second. Okay. All right, then now we are just to comments from HPC commissioners. Does anybody like to make any kind of a statement or about anything in particular? No? Seeing none? All right. I'll open the floor to our city council rep, Mayor Peck.
I don't really have much. I just want to say.
Would you just hit the mics just so we can get it on the... Thank you.
I just want to say I respect the amount of discussion and diligence that this board has put into this decision. And are you really sending it to council?
Sorry. Yeah.
You don't have anything else to do.
Oh my gosh. I feel my heart goes out to them is the problem. But, okay. And thanks, staff, very much. It's been very interesting.
Okay. With that, we are at a point where I am looking for one more motion.
Move to adjourn.
Okay.
Second.
All right. Motioned by Commissioner Jacoby and seconded by Commissioner Norton. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. All right. We are adjourned. Thank you all for your time and your attention.